There we go. Hey everybody,
Hey!
hope you're all doing good. And hey, look who have online again. It's almost
You can't
exactly.
get rid of me. Can't get rid of me.
No, I don't want to get rid of you. I mean, if we could have you every week, we'd have you every week. But yeah, it's almost a year to the day since you were on the stream last. So how are you doing,
hmm
DM Scotty?
Oh, great. Fantastic. Been super busy with the books. And I still do craft. I know people are like, yeah, we missed your crafting. I get it. I get it. But um yeah, the books have just been taking a lot of, so much of my time up. And I do have several craft videos up. I have one that I'm actually working on right now where it's this white ship that I made. It's a
Oh,
sand
all right.
ship actually, and it has runners on it. It has runners on the bottom of the ship, and it's mostly made out of cardboard. Okay.
Nice.
So, which is really cool, but I use some wood bits and that kind of thing. But it's all white. Like it's a white ship. So it's really stark,
Okay.
and I use like a dark gray between the slats and everything of the ship. But I also did some technique on the ship. I did one technique that I've done quite a bit in my crafting career, where you take cardboard and you score between the corrugations on the cardboard, and it
Okay.
looks like wooden slats, right? It looks like wood planks, right? I've used those quite a bit for bridges, and other, even bigger structures. But I did another technique because I wanted it to be, the players were going to this alien land, which I called the land of vast emptiness. So yeah, basically like it's an apocalyptic fantasy kind of thing. And
I think you had a couple of
um,
shorts about that, yeah?
yeah, I have. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
made some
yeah.
shorts about it. Um, the players kind of just, their enemy throws them there and they have to figure out what's going on. There's this whole, just some really cool stuff going on. And they end up, finding this archaeologist who has a ship, and then so I wanted to make the ship. I wanted to make the sand ship, but the trees there are like this white wood. So
Oh,
the
okay.
so I wanted to make the ship look like it was out of this white wood. But anyways, for the panels on the outside of the ship, I wanted to give it a really unusual look. So what I did was I took the cardboard, instead of scoring it, I soaked it in water and pulled the top layer of the cardboard
Oh,
off.
okay.
So you see the scalloping inside the cardboard, right? And then I use that as the exterior of the ship.
Oh, that's an idea.
Yeah, so it's really cool. And then I wanted to have kind of a non-traditional sail, so um I did like a wedge shape with like I used skewer sticks for like barbecues,
Okay.
and then layered paper towels over it and soaked in white glue. And so I got like this scale, this like wedge shape for the sail, and the wedge shape sits on top of the mast, kind of going forward, like that. So it's not down, it's not like this, like
Mm-hmm.
a normal ship. It's kind of like this, like you might see one of those kind of sand, things where they have the wing or whatever on top of
Okay, yeah.
on top of it, and can kind of got that was kind of the idea. I wanted to make it look, I wanted the ship to look like otherworldly, like not, like not like the standard European ship, right? So, but yeah, it came out quite nice. So I am working on that video. I will have it out
Yeah, we'll
eventually.
definitely be looking forward to that. So let's just say hello to everyone in the chat and then we can get talking about EZD6, okay?
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey guys, hey guys.
So, hi Charlene, hi Earthman Brick, hi Questboard Terrain, Mia Gigd, good to see you, Dungeon Matron, hi there, and oh, Scatter Terrain, hope you're doing great.
A lot of the usual suspects.
Oh, yeah, indeed. So let me just drop a link to the community showcase in case anyone wants to drop some pictures of their work for later.
Awesome.
Okay. Oh, and hi Sean, how are you doing? Okay. And basically the main thing that we were planning to talk about was EZD6 and how publishing his first system has changed this fine young man.
Yeah, 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 I'm blown away. First off, I'm blown away by the success of EZD6. Yeah, I mean, it's less than a year and it's hit Adamantine level on Drivethru, which is no small feat. That's like 0.00 something percent of the products, right? And you can the stuff that's that level just trickles in, like it's rare, and there are thousands of products on there. So I could have been one of those RPGs that just falls into obscurity, So, but I was talking to Karl a little earlier, like of course everybody that's the dream of every gamer to like publish your own system, right? But I think more than that, it's like for people to actually appreciate it and play it, and I knew there were a lot of people that would enjoy it. But it's getting it out there, getting word of mouth out there to people. Because I've extensively play tested the system for years. I play tested. It was basically all I was, almost all I was playing. And I played with, people and a lot of people in the community, including Professor Dungeon Master, so and I knew I was onto something when he loved the system and didn't have any criticisms of it, So I knew I was onto something, but just not even someone who thinks about RPGs all the time, but just seeing the players, at the table. That's what sold me on that this system is working, and I another thing that sold me was I would have people there was a particular convention I go to in North Carolina, and there's a guy I know who loves RPGs. His wife will never play because I think she's intimidated, right? It's a bit intimidating.
Yeah, if you have to read this many rules to get started, it's like,
Yeah, exactly. All these rules and stuff, and it's kind of scary. But he talked her into playing in one of my games, and she did, and she loved it. Because the characters are very simple to make, and you don't have to really know a lot of rules to play the game.
yeah,
Because whatever rules you don't know, I can teach you in 5 minutes.
yeah,
Right?
and I mean it's the same mechanic throughout the for everything you want in the game. So once you learn the rule, it applies to literally everything in the game.
Exactly. Yeah, everything, that's what I tried to do. I tried to skim away all the fat. Like, okay, what can I skim away from the game and still be a game, right? And that's what I tried to do, and that's how I always think about it. And it makes you so nimble on your feet because your runtime isn't wasted by thinking up rules, right? It's not wasted by, okay, there's a certain procedure for this and there's a certain procedure for that, right? I want the story just to flow, and then when you hit that point where a die roll is interesting, let's roll the dice, or important, that it just is minimal disturbance in the story as possible, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so
Uh,
part of that is like no math, right?
yes, that I really appreciated that part.
No math. And even though you roll multiple dice, right?
Mhm.
There's first off, there's no math to add to the dice. Second off, you just take the highest die, right? There's no like dice pool where, I have to pick out my 6 4s or whatever that I rolled. And then, that's all cool, but that all takes time, right? I like the instant gratification, right? So save D&D, for example, you do have to add, you may not know exactly when you roll the die, but you're pretty, when you roll a die and you get a 20, you hit, of course. But if you roll like a 15 plus, you probably hit, right? And then when you add the number, that's when you really find out. But in my system, there's no wait. Like, I like that instant gratification of rolling the dice, even if you roll 3 or 4 dice, and you just take the highest one. That's it. There's no, other thought process involved. Like, oh wait, I got to add my bonuses, and oh, I gotta look. Oh, hold on, I got to look at my sheet. What was that? There's none of that. And dice pools. That's how even though I have dice pools, that's how I avoid the pitfall of dice pools. The thing I don't like is having to count up your successes and like, oh wait, oh no, I didn't. I didn't get enough. So
Yeah, for sure. And I know that last time you were here, you told me about the exploding dice on criticals and the excitement they generate.
oh
At
yeah.
the time, I thought, yeah, that sounds really nice. But when I played in the first game I ran and we had that first critical, it was like, oh yeah, I wasn't kidding.
Yeah, you've experienced like a major crit chain, right? And the feeling of that is just and the energy at the table is just amazing. Like when people are like, yeah, um, in D&D, they'll be like, oh, you got a crit, that's cool, whatever. Some extra damage there. But a crit, with a crit chain where you kill something major or something very deadly, it's like, yes, the players are like with you there because they don't want to have to face this thing, right? So the more damage you do to it, the less they gotta do, or you might even kill it. So, which you did. So, yeah, it's just a feeling of that. I love that feeling and the excitement. And it's funny with my game. Like I'll have people read it and they'll be like, there aren't a lot of rules, and people feel like there's not enough scaffolding there for them, and I
Hmm.
get that. Um, one of the criticisms of the game has been that you need to be an experienced game master to run the game. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think there's something to it, right? I think the better game master you are, the better the experience will be. But that could be with any game,
That's
right?
literally for any rule set. If you have experience, you can make any rule set work. There's that. My
Exactly.
my impression would be the other way around. I think it helps to have experienced players rather than an experienced game master. Simply because with
Right, right.
new players, it helps if they have a list of, hey, you can do this, you can do this, you can do that. Whereas an experienced player can say, okay, I can vaguely do this thing, and I'm going to riff off that one. But for absolutely new players, it helps. Even if you have just one experienced player at the table who can help everyone else out, but if you have a group of completely new players, then they're just going to be, but can I do this? Can I do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And so that can be a help when like if you have new players um in this game and you have some old hats, they can see what the old hats are doing and get them up to speed. Whereas
Yeah,
some other games that might be more difficult because it's very rules based, right? Things that you do are mostly rules or very heavily rules based. So just seeing someone do something may not necessarily be enough, but just seeing how like people can just say what they do and I basically just tell you a number to roll, that they quickly realize, oh, I can just do what my character would do, right?
yeah.
And I think that's a big thing of this game. It's like, what would my character do? I don't have to worry about rules of what my character would do with very few restraints, right? And some logical thinking, right? I mean, obviously you can't fly if you don't have any wings, but with logic, you can try to fly. But so the rules don't get in the way, and that's what I love. That if the players want to bring things, make up stuff on the spot, I feel this game really allows you to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, any rule set is just a framework for you know telling your story, and if it gets in the way of telling your story, then it's like, okay, which one's more important, the rules or the story?
Right, right, right. And I think that can be a big confusion for like new players because they're so worried, or new DM or new GMs because they're so worried about, you know, oh, am I doing this right or am I doing that right? That I call it runtime in your brain. So like the more RAM you have to use for other things, the less you have for leaving it open for players to throw things at you that you can use, right? Usually against them. But not always. Not always. It's sometimes just make a moment cooler. You know, you add to something that a player does to just make it cooler. I love to do that. Or, you know, yeah, sometimes use it against them, like, you know, so, but I feel like if you're not using part of your brain worrying about this rules,
Hmm.
then you have that, the runtime open to actually be paying attention to that, you know.
Yeah, and
Where's the narrative going?
it's when you mentioned, for example, that the fact that the rules are simple makes the game run faster. That's also another aspect of it because you don't have to anticipate how the various rules will interact. So you don't have to kind of go on slow mode just to avoid running into a brick wall.
Right, right, right. There's another interesting kind of aspect I've noticed with game masters thinking about the game, and like that it's a little, you know, players start out with some karma, they got their hero die. They're pretty well set up to start, and some of those players that can get more karma and stuff can be really challenging for the game master. But I think of the game kind of lopsided, right?
Hmm.
Um, One aspect I build into the game is I hate when players die early, right? I don't want a player to die in the first 5 minutes. That is really not fun, right? If you're going to die, I want you to die mid game, right? So with the resources you get and you start with, it's pretty easy not to die in this game, even though it seems like it is with your 3 strikes. It's
Yeah,
pretty easy not to die in the first 5 minutes of the game.
yeah. In fact, I was surprised. I mean, three strikes sounds really low, but player characters in this game are really durable.
Yes, exactly. So you have, you know, and once you start, once you spend that karma, you know, you don't have much. You spent your hero die, you spent your karma. You know, once you spent that stuff, the game gets deadly fast. You know what I'm saying? So you know, it's all about attrition for me in the game, right?
Hmm.
Like I don't try to make an encounter like D&D, like, oh, let's have a balanced encounter every time, or you know, oh, the characters what you know destroyed that group of goblins at the start. Yes, right, because they have like a lot of resources to do that. But as their resources whittle down, smaller things can become more and more dangerous, right? Because in this game, you know, it's not like you're 20th level and a goblin could never kill you.
Yeah.
A goblin itself could kill you, you know, if it gets lucky enough, or you're just out of resources, or you're down to your last strike or whatever. Um, there's you know, there's always that fear that you could, you know, you could die.
Yeah, Scatter Terrain is saying, I love starting each session with with a new hero die and fresh karma.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh, I'm loaded, and then it's like it starts to whittle away. You're like, yeah, you know, it gets more and more scary. But that's part of the experience of the game, and I think some new RRs need to realize that the players are pretty godlike to start, right? But as they whittle down those resources, it gets scarier and scarier for them, right? Because a couple bad rolls, you know, could mean their end, or you know, close to it. So yeah, don't I think for new RRs, don't worry so much about the start or even the first half of the game. Let the players be badass. Let them beat the snot out of stuff. Make the encounters fun. You know, don't worry about numbers. Like um you know, make the encounters like, these goblins are like, there's no way you can take us on, you know, and you know, taunt the players, and the players beat the crap out of them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, let them have that, you know, don't worry about that. Just be thinking about the attrition that's happening, right? Because every time they're using the karma, they're one less karma down. That's one less karma to save your butt when like your armor save fails, you know, or you roll that one and you don't have your hero die, you know. So um yeah. Uh,
Yeah,
so
because
that's the way
the
I think about it. Yeah, that's the way I think about the game.
yeah, I mean, and when the stakes start increasing, those karma points and the hero they really become like, oh no, like someone, no.
Yeah. Like I was running a game out of the new quest book, and there was a conjurer who was trying to attack the queen, and thank you, yes. And it was in the the pest control adventure, and the conjurer was trying to attack the queen, and the queen has this thing where you have to spend a karma to cast any spells against the queen, and the character had no more karma, so like they ended up attacking the thing with a dagger and like failing and then getting a karma. It was like, yeah, now I can try to blast it. So yeah, that kind of stuff can be fun. I also have this crazy there's an adventure later in that book with a creature called the Grindy Luck. And the
Oh, I like
Grindy
that one
Luck
so
is
much.
just a super lucky goblin, and players are going to be like, "What the hell?" when they like try to attack this thing, because it's like it's almost immune to like spells reflect back at casters, and you hit yourself if you miss it, and like it's just it gets a save for every attack, and it's only got one strike. It only has one strike, but to get that strike.
One of the things I really liked about the Book of Quests is that it's really a masterclass in how to make interesting encounters without, just, yeah, I'm going to put 36 more strikes on this thing and I'm going to have this thing throw fireballs and magic. Because, I mean, take the Grindelwald, for example. It's super weak, except that it's got these other things going on around that just make it more interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And like a lot of the setup of encounters, um, you can make even a goblin interesting, right?
Yeah.
Depending on how you set something up, you can make something scary or interesting, right? Um, like we were playing a game, Karl, and there was one of our characters was crawling in this crawl space, and there's a bug, this bug that came out and was attacking him, and they're like getting like a bane to attack it, right? That's
Yeah, because
scary.
they're in a tunnel. Yeah, I remember that.
Right. They're like hunched, they're crawling around in this, crawl space, and the bug is, like a small dog size, and it just could scurry around and attack. And that kind of stuff is scary, and it's that the bug's not powerful or anything, but just the hardness of trying to hit it,
And the
because of
situation
your
because
position, your
you're stuck
situation.
down there and there's no help coming up from behind or the front. So yeah,
Right, exactly. So a lot of those kind of situations, like I have a situation where you find that ruined city, and there's like kind of the King Kong situation where there's a log going across the crevasse to get to the city, right? And the ogres are like trying to dump you off, like King Kong. So that's scary, It's like, oh crap, players can be as powerful as they want, but in those kind of situations, um, even high powered characters would get scared.
yeah. I
They're
mean,
gonna fall
if
50
there's that
feet.
kind of drop, I mean, you're not coming back from that.
Right, right.
But yeah, now that you mentioned, for example, the stakes in the later adventures of the quest book really start getting high, and I noticed that you weren't afraid to put in some pretty severe consequences just at the roll of a die. It's
Right.
like you said, it's
Yes.
not going to happen in the first round, but it could happen. So that really cranks up the tension.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, if your character in D&D has 200 hit points, unless you're fighting Tiamat or something, you're not you're
Yeah,
probably not going to die. You're probably not you're good, you're good to go. But yeah, in this game, some bad luck or some lucky luck by the RR when they're rolling for um, to hit, um, that can get scary, because you know uh, I generally find that the monsters only ever crit once, because it's
yeah,
really
pretty
it's
much.
really hard to keep rolling sixes, right? But I have rolled 2 or 3 sixes before, and that's really scary. The player, when oh no, and it's really, really rare, but it can happen, and that's one thing I've always liked about the kind of exploding dice, that anything can kill anything if it just gets lucky enough. You can have that day in the sun, that little goblin or whatever can have that day in the sun where he just rolls a crit chain and possibly kills a player, so
Yeah,
it's exciting.
even two crits will leave a player with just one third of their strikes. So it's yeah.
Right, right, right.
Okay, Earthman Brick is saying It's over 150 pages of questing content. Buy it now. In fact, there's no better gift for Father's Day, or telling your romantic interest in your life that you love them than with the Book of Quests.
That's right. That's right. Get some quests. Get some quests.
So, as we were saying earlier, EZ6 is your first published system, but it's not your first published book. So, was there a lot of difference in between the two, apart from preparing the system itself?
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, it was a bit different. Um, because in the first book we did I did all pictures, like terrain and miniature pictures,
Hmm?
and I did most of the art, and Gareth did a little bit, but I did most of the art in the book myself. So we never really dealt with an outside artist, where in the Book of Quests and in EZD6 we were dealing with two outside artists. So a lot of um their art has to kind of catch up with the book, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You gotta get the stuff written, and then get them to do the picture. They do the pictures. So it's a little more like complicated. It was a little more complicated as far as dealing with the artists, but since Brandon, who's like an old pro at doing all this stuff now, he's done most of his art himself, but with these other artists, we wanted to have a different look than his book, so that's why we didn't go with his art. But because we found these artists that we loved that really fit the style of the book, and yeah, I think that was the biggest change from the two books, because it was still kind of a similar situation where Brandon and I were working together, just the two of us, and then with the North Road, Gareth and I were just working together. So it wasn't like a big team of people working on the stuff. It was just it was a small team for both. So it was very similar. But where it did differ a bit was Brandon was like um he was having input, of course, but it was mostly my ideas, mostly my input, mostly my writing uh for everything. But he changed stuff and added stuff and clarified it, and laid everything out in the book and everything. So it was a bit different, um having um having Brandon do it than Gareth, because I feel like we really collaborated. It was really a collaboration on the book, right, on the North Road book, whereas the EZD6 book was more of Brandon, like bringing it to life, like bringing my ideas to life, right? It was a bit different there too, but it was still there was still a lot of collaboration, with the art, the art style and the art, and his kind of publisher suggestions, because he's done very well with his games, and he kind of knows what needs to be in a book. And we did add some stuff to the book after um, we decided to add like more tables to the end of the book, because I really didn't have that
yeah. Those
in
are
it.
always fun.
Yeah, yeah, I like those. So that's something Brandon wanted, to add more tables, so we did the tables and that kind of thing. So um, yeah, it was very similar, but there were some differences in the collaborations.
Okay, and yeah, let's talk about one of the. We mentioned it before, and while we're in the before the stream, and we're talking about how easy the system is to hack, partly because it's there aren't many rules, so we're not going to have consequences down the line because this affects this other thing that I didn't think about. And now you've
Exactly.
opened up the system for OpenEZ6 so that anyone can publish their content. Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. After I was kind of thinking we would open it like after the third book, but with the whole D&D thing, and there were people that really wanted to do stuff, so I'm like, why wait? Let's let's let these people do what they want, because I want to do it anyway. and you know, I basically did it like how Brandon did it at ICRPG. There's no like legalese or anything. It's just like it's just like the game's open.
Yeah, I mean,
Just don't copy my don't exactly copy my work word for word, and don't steal my art. And like that's it. As long as yeah, and anything else is fair game. Make your own worlds, make your own inclinations, make your own hero paths.
okay, and I understand that it's like perpetual and forever and stuff, so you will not be sending mercenaries to anyone's house, right?
No mercenaries will come to your house. I promise. And it's like, okay, think about, oh, there's no legalese, maybe he'll sue me or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm an independent producer of stuff. I'm not a major corporation with all these resources, right? Um, even if you did step on my toes or whatever, which people haven't, I don't have the resources to go sue you, right? You know what I'm saying? Is it really worth my time to go, sue you? So, yeah, don't worry about any kind of legal stuff like that. There's not going to be any ramifications for whatever you publish. There's some great people. A lot of people have shown me stuff, and there's some really great stuff in the works. We got Jackal and Hounds they're working on their spy version, which is
Yeah, yeah.
pretty interesting. And I have another friend who's doing it's an animal like feudal Japan
Ooh, okay.
with animals. So yeah. Like he showed me some of the work, and just a small teaser. Like the people. I really like the opening of the book where the people just disappear, like they just go away, right? And so
Okay.
the animals kind of evolve into like the new people of the island, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's very fairy tale-y,
I guess, yeah.
um, it, yeah, it kind of reminded me of like Watership Down or something, the way
Hmm.
like an adult fairy tale or whatever. Yeah, it was. I really liked the intro of the book, and I think it's gonna be really cool. I think it's gonna be really cool.
Nice. It's going to be one to watch out for. And oh yeah, I wanted to ask, what was the reasoning behind the original timing? As in, why were you going to open it after the third book rather than after the first book or whenever?
Oh, right. I don't know. I thought there would be enough material for people to, get the vibe of everything of the system, you
Okay,
know.
yeah, makes sense.
So that was kind of my thinking. But I think people get it. Yeah, I think people get it. So I didn't feel I had to wait.
Yeah, I think that's right because even from the Discord, for example, I could see people coming up with their own hacks and stuff right from day one. It's
Oh, right. And there's some hacks that are like, trademark. So it's like there's someone did a Star Wars hack, which is really, really cool actually.
that was really well done. Even the layout and the stuff of that. Yeah.
Yeah, the layout, the way it's set up and everything. One of the abilities I really like was like I shot first. I thought that was a fun, but yeah, but I mean that could be never be published because it's Star Wars, right? I'm sure they're not going to pay they're not going to pay the royalties to Disney, right? So, but it's available on the web, in the Discord and everything like that. If you want to, I think it might be available on the Facebook group too, if you want to, use it yourself. I mean, it's a great hack. But these other ones are actually going to be published. They're going to be, hopefully on Drivethru and that kind of thing. So I know there are already a few on there. There's an adventure on there. There's tokens. Um, so those are cool. Inspired by going to do all the EZD6 monsters, all 20 of the new monsters. So I'm excited about that. They're really cool looking tokens. So that's all great stuff, and I think it'll spread the awareness of the game, and I want people to make the game their own. Um, the game is so easy to do that. It's so easy to make your own.
Yeah, and I bet it must feel satisfying to see all this activity going on. It's like, yes.
It is, and it feels a lot like with crafting. Like I started doing this.
Yeah.
I thought, maybe some people might like to do this crafting thing. And so I started doing the videos, and then people loved it. So it's just a great feeling that I had something to do with um, so many people discovering this great hobby that may not have discovered it before, right? Because every new person, every new YouTuber or blogger or whatever that or TikToker that gets on and does terrain um, inspires somebody else to do it, you know.
Right.
Because I think a couple things I've always said about crafting is one is it's therapeutic, right? You're not thinking about anything else. You're just thinking about the crafting. It's just you're just in the zone. I call it the zone. You get in the zone and nothing else is in there. You're just concentrating on what you're doing. And another thing is I think that there's some place in everybody that wants to be creative, right? And some people never find what their creative side, and this uh it definitely fills that. It definitely fills that creative side. And you don't have to be Michelangelo or Picasso at it, right? You can, you know, um, even like, that was one thing I always wanted to encourage was like anybody can do this. Hey, sit down and just try this, right? You can do this. And so the same, it's funny because it's kind of the same philosophy with my RPG with EZD6. It's like,
True.
yes,
Yeah.
you can play an RPG, right? You can do this. You don't have to take a college course in like game rules, right?
Or arts or theater or whatever. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I didn't think about it, but yeah, that makes sense.
Because and another thing is like people are so busy today, right? Do you have time to like sit down and with some systems it's like a page of stats for each monster. Do you have time to like sit down and like print all that out and like search all that and have that all ready? Where in like my game, if you run into a monster, you can just make it up on the spot, right? If the players go totally off the rails or whatever, you can just make up whatever you want on the spot, and it's so easy to fit in the game. It's not like, oh, I need all the 6 stats for it, and I need the armor class, and I need, you
And
just decide what
and
it is
the
to hit.
mobile application and the
Right.
and the
You don't
appropriate
need
miniature. Yeah.
exactly. You don't need your support system to like run this game, right?
Okay, let's see. So Mike Butler is saying, "All hail the craft father." All hail.
Hey.
Okay, let's see. Terrantronics is saying, "I'm looking forward to moving my party from Hero Kids to EZD6." Okay, and Dungeon
I
Mate.
have played Hero Kids with my nieces and nephews, and EZD6 is easier to do. It's definitely easier, yeah. And you could do a little bit easier version of EZD6, right? Even if you needed to, right?
Okay, and Dungeon Matron is asking, Scotty, why did you have to create the Greeblix? Yeah, that is a good question.
I love as a game master, I love giving the players hard choices, right? Um, and the Greeblix is like a living hard choice, right? Plus, I like messing with players, right? So the Greeblix gives you that boon, right? But it's annoying. So my thing I love to do like how much can a player take? Right? How much how much are they willing to put up with this annoying creature that's losing their stuff, drinking it, eating it, losing it, or doing whatever with it? How long can I string the player along without them like finally just getting rid of it? Um, because it begs and it's like, oh please, it'll never happen again, and of course it does, right?
Yeah, in my head it looks a lot like the that lemur I think from Madagascar. You know, the one with the really big eyes. And
Yeah, exactly. And it's got the sad eye, it's got the big sad eyes, and it's just um and I love cute things that are annoying, are annoying. I ran a space adventure one time where they rescued like this Paris Hilton type
oh
person,
god.
and she had a synthetic pet. It was like a bioengineered pet, and the thing was like nuts. Like it got in their engine room and it was like pulling wires and breaking stuff, and like they had to go chase it through the ship, and it's like taunting them, you know, uh, but it's so small that can get in all those like really teeny places that the characters can't crawl into. So I love that kind. I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just like
Yeah,
it really fit with
that
my
that does
mentality.
sound really annoying. Okay. So one thing that received a lot of fire about EZ6 was the lack of leveling.
Yes, yes, yes. Hmm.
So
And
what do you think about that at this point?
yeah,
I
yeah,
still think it's a great
it's
idea not to have leveling, but apart from that,
I do too. And there's a lot of argument in the community about the leveling, right? Some people like they really want to have leveling, and then sometimes when they think about it, it's like, well, not real, um, because it changes the game, right? It changes the kind of game you're playing. Um, I much prefer players to like level up through getting gear, and you can have people get boons from like actual training in the game. Like if they decide to
yeah.
train something and they spend the time in game doing it, why not give them a boon in it? You can always do that kind of stuff. But you and I actually have been working on something that's a little sneaky. It's called advantages, and it's kind of leveling without leveling, right? It really makes the characters feel like they're leveling, but are they? You
I
know what I'm
mean,
saying?
they are improving, but
Yeah, yeah, they are improving. So let me explain. Let me explain. So the great thing about the advantages is you if you get advantages, you're not going to be broken that you can't play with another person that's brand new, right? So in D&D, if you're first level, it's really hard for you to play with a third or fourth level group, right?
yeah, that's not going to work.
Or even fifth level, you're done, right? You're never going to survive. So that's one huge problem with D&D, and that's why like 90% of the adventures are like level 1 to 10. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like it's really hard to find high level adventures. For one, the rules are so the rules the rules bloat gets so bad that I think it's hard for people to keep that in their mind. Like, how can I make this a challenge? Because some spells will just bypass in
Yes,
problems,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
They bypass problems. And if you have the right spellcasters to bypass problems, then that kind of takes those problems out of the game, and then you've written an adventure that's like totally not necessarily fun for a group of players that can just bypass the problems. So that becomes an issue for like high level games. But with EZD6, you're kind of at this you're kind of at this certain power level. Like you say, you're going to get some improvements, and you're going to get magic weapons or armor or other stuff, scrolls and potions, but you're not going to be like a level 1 and a level 20, right? Where it's a totally different game. It's always going to be a similar type game, right? Within a range. Now, the advantages definitely increase the power of your character, but there's but they're only usable once a session. So they're little things that are only usable once a session. So maybe re-roll your armor roll, or ignore or re-roll a spell roll, or that kind of thing. They're that kind of stuff, and there are some in there actually in the advantages that we've been working on that are like uh, path specific. Like there's two for each path. There's warrior, delver, uh, warden, all that kind of stuff. So it's actually a 50, we decided to do a 54 card deck. Okay. So what happens is when you level up, either at the end of every adventure or every couple adventures or 3 or 4 adventures as a milestone, you can have players draw from the advantage deck, so they could draw 5 cards. Okay. And then they choose to keep one of the cards, and they can keep that as like a little bonus that they can always use at the table. So what I would do is just keep it up in front of you to see the power, and then turn it over when you use it, right? And you use it for that session. So that's a great thing with the cards. But Also, there are different power levels you could do. So we kind of had like heroic, which is 3 card. You can have up to 3 cards, or we had epic, which is like you can have up to 6 cards, which is a little more kind of futzy. I think I would go with the 3 cards, but if you're the kind of table that wants to be a little more epic or whatever, you could have the 6 cards. But also, the thing I like about it is it's also kind of a mini game in itself, because when you draw those 5 cards, you take a card, but if you get a better card than you had, you can keep that card and turn the other one in,
Yeah.
right?
You can't
So
keep
it's
them
kind
all.
of an
Yeah.
exchange. Yeah. So you can exchange your hand as you level up. You can and get chances to draw more cards. You can exchange your hand with different if you want to exchange both that you have, like say you draw a new 5 and you get 3 you like, right? You could exchange the 2 cards you already had and get those 3. So say you're like a warrior and you get a warrior card and you want to keep that one. I'll keep that, or 2 warrior cards or something. So I think that it's kind of a fun, you can kind of build your ultimate like little buffs thing, right? Little buff for your character, right? Uh, so it's a fun little aspect of the game, and it's something that's not totally not needed, but I think it helps players feel like they're leveling up, right? Like, oh, I got a level, I get a new advantage card, right? So that kind of helps that, but it never makes the characters like out of power with new characters, right? Like, oh, you've got 3 advantages. You could never play with just the starting character, right?
Yeah, the way I see them, they're more like ultimate effort things. So it's like, okay, things are really, really bad right now. I have to use this, or I should use this, or whatever.
Right. And and depending on what, it's just like a character, it's just like inclinations. Depending on what kind of advantages you build, you can, you can really complement a character. You could really complement a character with like, oh, I'm a character that already gets, tries to get more karma. Here's some of those advantages that get extra karma or get another karma or something. There's one where you get a karma and you can share it with somebody. If you would get a karma, you get another one to give to them, to another party member. So um, there's all kinds of like builds you can do with the cards, but it's like a collection game, right? You have to collect the cards, draw the cards when you would level up, and then you can swap out. Or we also have a caveat that if you draw 5 cards that you can't use, which could happen, I think it'd be rare, but it could happen. If you draw 5 cards you can't use, then you just redraw. You like turn those in and redraw. We also have a couple of cards in the deck that you don't keep, but it's a 54 deck, a 54 deck, and 2 of the cards give you a hero die and extra karma to start, and then you discard the card. So if you would draw that in your hand, you would discard the card and draw another card. If you get lucky enough to draw one of those, so you might start with double the karma. Yeah, you might start with 6 karma instead of 3. So those are pretty fun. There's always that chance that you would, for that game, that you would draw that. So those are fun cards, but most of them are like, yeah, you keep for advantages. And I do plan to have them on Drivethru, but I actually have to check the printing first of the cards, so that's happening right now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how they turn out.
Me too. Yeah, I think they're going to be great.
I think one of the two of the things I like about this is that first, it's a way of expanding the game beyond the moving into cards and everything. It's like, yeah, right, you can do that too. So that might lead to more interesting stuff coming up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Also, again, going back to the stack of rules, you don't have interactions like you would get, for example, in certain collectible card games where this interacts with that, and then there's that, but then there's that other special. No, it's very flat, and it's like this interacts with your basic rules at most, but it doesn't go any further. You don't have to reference 3 books and the website and Wikipedia to understand what's going to happen.
Exactly. They're very actionable cards, right?
Okay, let's see. Yeah, power
And
creep.
everything you need is on the card. Yeah, you're right. You don't have to, oh, how's this affect with this rule and this rule and that rule? Yeah, it's very easy to decipher.
Okay, so apart from the cards, what else do you have on the menu coming up that you can talk about?
Yeah. Let's talk about the book of the book of characters. Um, the book of characters. I want to go a little gonzo with EZD6. More dice, uh, more stuff, particularly more stuff for people creating characters. Okay, so my first thought was to do like a lot of hero paths in different genres, right? But right now I'm kind of settled on actually I'm calling them right now descriptor paths, and you can build your character from 1 to 3 descriptor paths, and they each of the descriptors has like 2 things attached to it. Some of them have a couple things and maybe like a little bit of a negative for that thing, but usually it makes it up uh in the powers of the path that you've chosen. Like it's not a big punishment, but it there's certain things like I have a scrapper where you get you're harder to hit when you're in melee, and you have a couple things to protect you while you're in melee, right? Because that's where your sweet spot is, right? Dodging and moving between melee and characters and letting them get in the way of someone trying to hurt you, right? But there's a caveat with it that if you wear anything other than light armor, then you lose those abilities, right? So you can still wear the heavier armor, but then you're losing your scrapper abilities,
Yeah,
right?
so that sounds more like a restriction than a disadvantage in the same way, like you wouldn't get
Right.
an acrobat wearing plate mail. It would be a bit weird.
Right, exactly. So I didn't want to. So, but there are others where you might have a social disadvantage, um, because you're not used to those kind of those kind of encounters that aren't your own people or
Yeah,
whatever.
that makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of stuff. Um, but for the most part, yeah, each thing has 2, and then the cool thing kind of I'm thinking is that if you could take less descriptor paths and more inclinations, right? So, and then some of the descriptor paths will have their own inclination list. Like if you're like a construct, right? Your character's like a construct. You get some things with the construct, but then you get something with the construct, but then you can pick like for your inclinations, you can pick like things from the construct list. So if you're like, but you might be like an undead construct, right? Or you might be a robot type thing, or you might be a golem or whatever. I'm trying to make it so that it covers every genre, which I thought would be a little trickier than it actually has been.
Really? All right.
Yeah. Because say I have like a cipher path
Mm-hmm.
where that could be a hacker. That could be a conjurer who is able to decipher mystical locks, right? Mystical traps.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of the same thing, but in different genres,
Yeah,
right?
it's the same material, but you get to flavor it for whatever genre you want to play it in. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense.
Right. And another kind of conundrum I was running into was, so what if you want your character to be like a doctor or, a siege specialist or an architect or, whatever, um, or a bomb expert or whatever kind of thing that may not fit with the other. Because to make all that, I would have to make like a ton of descriptor
Yeah,
paths,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I just made a specialist descriptor, and then you can choose like, oh, I want to be a doctor or a siege specialist or whatever, or a warlord, that kind of thing. So that cuts down like trying to have like all these different things, for the game, and just clogging up the list for people to look at, right? Which I feel it would do.
Yeah, it would be if you wanted to cover everything, it would take quite a lot of pages, and it's
Yeah. And then you don't have to cover everything because of whatever people think up that you didn't, they
yeah, they
can
can just fit it
make a
into, yeah,
specialist, right?
that makes sense. Okay, I can see in the chat the design for the Muppets EZD6. This is good. It seems to be in a pretty advanced stage already.
That would be fun to have like kind of a Muppet or a tune version of EZD6.
Okay, going back to the book of characters. So, is it all about the descriptors and the character building, or do you have any other things going on in there?
Yeah, there's other stuff going on. So one is kind of like how would you handle like powers, right? So instead of magic, I'm calling it powers. And instead of miracles, I'm calling it channeling, because the channeling could be from a deity or it could be from a demon or an alien. It could be from any or a power source, an object. It could be from anything. So I'm leaving it more open to what the channeling is. Like you and your game decide on the channeling.
So you're
Um,
just focusing on the mechanic, and then again, people can flavor it whichever way they like. Yeah.
right, exactly. And the mechanic will be exactly like EZD6. It's just you roll the resistance and then you roll the power dice and decide how many power dice you want against the thing. So pretty much the same there. But I also want to do power dice, which are the idea right now is it's kind of a level up bonus, right? So the power dice would have multiple functions. One would be some abilities may need to be like powered by a power die. Some you could also spend a power die to not take a strike. You could spend a power die by rolling it into any check. But unlike a hero die, where the hero die replaces the die, the power die doesn't. It just adds to the roll, right? So if you roll a 1 in a spell casting and you roll a power die, you're just adding another die to try to beat, if you're trying to beat the number of resistance and you want to do that. But if you rolled a 1 in that initial roll, it doesn't take that away. You would still have to take the spell burn to cast it. It it just makes it so you have a better chance of beating whatever the resistance number was if you didn't beat it, right? So I have these different things to use it for. Also you can roll it on your turn and get that much karma for rolling it. So
That's pretty
all
powerful.
these
Yeah.
kind of uses. Yeah, you could do great, or you could do like a 1. You can roll a 1 karma, you can get 6. So just really varied. But they're like really valuable, and they're cool, and it adds more dice to the game, right? So there's more. That was kind of an idea that I wanted to do. I wanted to have more dice. I'm also working on the idea where the boons from the character descriptors will stack. So if you get a melee boon from one descriptor and a melee boon from another,
Hmm.
those stack, right? And the inclination would stack. So you could get like 2 melee boons from the different descriptors and take the melee inclination, and get another die. So
Okay, because at the moment, if I remember correctly, for example, if you have a boon from a melee boon from the warrior hero, but you cannot also take fighter inclination to double that, right? So
yes,
okay,
yeah,
is
yeah.
that going to be modified retroactively as well, or is it fixed for standard EZ6 and then there's EZ6 plus with the book of characters?
I think it'll be kind of easy D6 plus, right? So you could just use the character path from the normal book, or you could build the characters, because they're not going to be exactly the same.
Yeah, the power level is going to
From
be definitely higher, as we said.
right, and the stakes will be a bit higher. Now, so that means as a rabble rouser, you need to take that into account, right? You should beef up. But like I say, with the philosophy of the game, where you're not trying to murder everybody outright, right? You want. I like to think that a player could go at least half the game before they get killed, right? It's just no fun to get killed right out of the gate. So this will make that even, less likely that you would die immediately. I'm also thinking of it's something I played with before, particularly in a sci-fi hack I did, where the armor is not a number. Okay, you have to roll a 6 on a die to get your armor save, but you can get more dice.
Okay.
For the armor
so the
save.
dice would always be a fixed 6, but then you increase the size of the dice. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. And when I did that game, I actually had saves for the enemies, right? And it turned out to be not too bad. It turned out to be not, because it's another step, right? It's another step in the process. It's going to slow down combats, but it's another step. And it didn't turn out to be that bad, because I had it's very rare that, because for one, the rabble rouser can't use karma, so you're not boosting your rolls. You literally have to roll a 6 for the thing to save the strike. So it wasn't too bad. It didn't slow the game down too much. So that might be something I do to boost the enemies a little bit. Like they actually get a save. Like they actually get an armor save of 6. Like most things would have a 6 to avoid a strike. But I'm still playing with that.
Concerning the speed of the combat, to be honest, the original rules made it so fast that basically you've created a time budget for yourself to, you've got room to experiment. So even if you're just adding another dice roll or whatever, I don't think it's going to push it anywhere near, the danger zone kind of stuff.
No. And I found that out when I play tested it. I found that out too, that it was like it didn't slow that combat down that much. So yeah.
Oh, Dirt Basement joined us. Hi, Lawrence.
Oh,
And
hey.
Earthman Brick has a question here. I guess the real question is, when are we going to get the unofficial Captain Planet EZD6 crossover game that the RPG community has been crying out for?
That will depend. Who wants to do it?
I think Steve just volunteered himself, so do it, Steve.
Yeah.
You are the chosen one. Write it.
I am working on a couple of they're not going to be big publication kind of things, more like small little asides, but I do have rules for like modern survival horror, which is really fun, because I hate to kill characters in normal games, but in survival horror, I'm like murdery. I love murdery. You're like, it's gonna be your luck and your skill that gets you through this. Your ideas and your luck that gets you through this game. But and then I'm working on also a Star Trek inspired one, right? Which I've actually played on Thursday night. I was a captain on a stream, and it was fun to play. I've run it. I actually ran it at a convention.
That was on Shadows of Arconia.
Yeah. Shadow of Arcania, yes.
I have a blast watching their games.
Thanks for the shout out. And yeah, I ran at a convention. It was a lot of fun. I used my terrain modules for the ship, where it's basically like plastic tubs that I put terrain in, and you just take the lid off and you set it down, and then you got your terrain, right? And I built the ship from like 3 of those, right? So it was really fun at the convention. So the idea, I called it Star Track, TRAC, because there were a couple things I wanted to overcome in it. One was I thought it was a funny play on the Star Trek name, because when I was younger, a lot of people called it Star Trek instead of Star Trek. Nobody makes that mistake now, but when I was when I was a wee lad, they'd call it Star. Oh, you see a Star Trek? So no, I saw Star Trek though. So that was kind of a funny in joke. But the other reason was because the ships are equipped with a new track drive, the player ships. And the track drive is like transdimensional refracted accelerated centrifuge. And so basically it's a dimension hopper ship, right? So
Oh, okay.
you can get places really quickly. And so what I did was I had the player ship as like a scout ship. It's a new Zephyr class scout ship. And so you can have a small crew on it, right? The other thing is when the crew's away, the prime computer AI takes over under command of whatever the captain, and then there's little robots that like do the work of the ship, right, for the crew. So they're UTRs, Universal Template Robots, and they're kind of like hover bots that do work around the ship and take commands from the prime and the biological crew. So the reason I did that was because I want all the biological crew to go down on the away missions, right? I mean, normally, right, on Star Trek, like the captain always goes anyway, but you know, it's like, and all the command crew, which is kind of crazy. But anyways, the command crew all goes down. So I wanted it to like nobody feels like they have to stay on the ship, right? Like the whole crew can go down, the ship can take care of itself while you're, and it's in constant contact with you.
And
So
at the same time, you don't need to maintain a crew of several hundred NPCs.
exactly. You don't have to worry about dealing with that, right? So that kind of did that. But I also, when I wanted to have the flavor of Star Trek without all the lore of Star Trek, right?
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So that you can make up anything you want, right? It's very light on the lore. You know, I've got a little bit of lore in it, but it's very light on the lore. So you can just make up anything. And when you're playing, just use like Star Trek things to like, oh, is there a replicator? Yeah, of course there's a replicator. You know, whatever, you know, it's not said in the rules there's a replicator. But you know, anything Star Trek you can pop in there. And we do a lot of science babble when we play, you know, like that's just make up make up solutions with science babble. So that's really fun. Mia was great at that. She in our last game, she was awesome. She was a science officer. So
Engage the discombobulator.
yeah. And you know, I'm kind of the mind that I don't necessarily want to play in an established setting because to me the characters kind of feel like second hat, right? If you're playing in Star Wars, there's like Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, they're all the A-listers, right? You're just some schmucks, you know, doing the Kessel Run or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You're not like the central heroes, right? Or if you're like in Robin Hood, per se, you know, like Robin Hood's the big man, you're just some bandits robbing rich people. Yeah.
There's also the timeline thing because let's say that you're playing in Middle Earth, so you're either playing before the the War of the Ring and everything else, like you know what's going to happen, what's going to come up, or you're playing after that, and well, like there's nothing to
Right,
do
exactly.
here.
Exactly. The time you're playing is the time you're playing in your own setting, right?
Yeah,
There's no like, okay, what era was this? What thing was this? And that's fine. That kind of stuff is great, you know, when players like it's fun to be in a world that you love, right? I get that. But I like the freedom that it gives the players and I to not be in an established world,
no,
right?
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, because we're making stuff up, right? And so I've got, in the game of the Star Trek, I've got, several alien races that are on the ship or species, but it's like there's, thousands in the galaxy, right? It's not like those are the only three species, right? So you can make up your own, my reasoning was that there are certain, like the space fleet or the whole, like Star Trek is based on Earth, right? On Terra.
Mm-hmm.
So they're mostly Earth people on the ships, right? But there are other species, other alien species, and the couple I have in the game are just the ones that commonly join the space fleet, right? they're the ones that most like Vulcans. You know, there's quite a few Vulcans in Starfleet and that kind of thing. It's like that. You know, there's these are the common aliens, but like you could have any alien you make up in it, right? Also, I have the Vorgris, which are the enemy of the United Space Service, and which is what I call it. And they like no one's ever seen them. Like the players don't know what they look like. Because they wear power suits, right? So they're like humanoid power suits. But I'll tell you a spoiler, they're not humanoid. But the power suits, the reasoning behind the power suits being humanoid is that it's intimidating to other humanoids, right? Because there's these big hulking, scary looking suits, right? And it's intimidating to the other humanoids. So that's one reason they wear them. There is another reason, which I won't divulge here, but so that's kind of a cool mystery, like because whenever they're destroyed or the suit is ruined, there's a miniature device in the suit that implodes the suit and gets rid of any evidence of what was in the suit. So the players will never know. Although at the convention game, I did run a game where the players got to see what the Vorgris looked like. Those few players that remember, I got to see what the Vorgris looked like, because the scenario was I wanted to have a scenario where often in Star Trek, higher beings will like force what they consider lower life forms to like fight and see who's the better one, kind of like the Gorn in the arena, that kind of thing. Which species deserves to maybe even live, so it was kind of one of those scenarios, and the Vorgris and the United Space Service were like really close to war, and something happened where their commander got this illness, and the Vorgris aren't as technologically advanced as the Space Service, because the Space Service have all these worlds, putting into their science, where the Vorgris are very xenophobic. So the Vorgris steal technology from other people, right? They go to war and steal technology. So they had their commander was dying from this illness, and they didn't know how to cure it. So I had an NPC captain who went over to the Vorgris ship. The whole joke was like he's like this legendary captain that's like totally useless
Like Zeb Brannigan kind
in
of
the
thing.
adventure. Right. And like so I did 2 adventures, and every one like he's out of the adventure until the end where he claims credit for doing whatever the crew did, right? So he goes over to their ship as a prisoner exchange, where the commander will come over, and then the medical officer is supposed to heal the Vorgris, right? So the Vorgris beams over in its power suit, and clunks over to sick bay, and it opens up. And the thing comes out, and it's not humanoid. And the doctor, rolls really well, ends up healing the Vorgris, and just then this squiddy like thing just appears in the sick bay, kills the Vorgris on the table, and then leaves, and then is gone. And so then the battle cruiser of the Vorgris is like, "We have detected our commander is no longer alive. Show us our commander." And they're like, "Oh crap!" And so then the suit activates by
Okay.
itself, and like is going to engineering to try to destroy the drive of the ship. So they're like, "Oh crap!" And they're have to run around chasing it, trying to blast it and everything. But and so there's this whole thing where they go to this world that's been ravaged by war. They're teleported by this power to this world that's been ravaged by war, and they both beam down. And and they're in a situation for the both sides to live, they have to fight these simulant warriors that have been fighting this war forever. They just keep getting reborn and then dying. So like the players that are in the middle of this, and they're at a defensible place, and they meet the Vorgris, and the Vorgris are like, "Hey, this is our area. You go somewhere else." And it's like there's nowhere else to go. And it's like so the two have to end up helping each other to survive. Like they won't survive if they don't help each other, and then and then of course the aliens show up, and it's like, and they're like, how dare you do this to us, blah blah blah, because no player likes to be forced into a situation, right? They don't like to be, forced to, whatever, someone lording. Nobody likes that in a game, lording over them. That's great fodder. Also, another great fodder for RPGs is if you steal something from a player, they will go the ends of the earth to get it back.
Oh yes.
If you steal their sock.
Yeah, literally, it
I
could
was
be
like,
the most insignificant
my
thing.
sock.
Yes.
So players hate being pigeonholed, and they hate being, someone steals something from them. So that's a surefire way to get them.
Okay, let's see. Scatter Terrain is saying the encounter on Shadows of Arconia kept making me think of them as Vogons. Without the poetry readings, I hope.
So, and that's pretty much it for the Star Trek thing. There's not a bunch of lore and timeline and all this stuff. It's just,
Yes,
you just fill it in from your Star Trek knowledge, right?
yeah, I mean, there's plenty of that around, and people are just going to, stack on that as they like.
Right. And if you want to play, if you're more into Next Generation, or you're more into TOS, or Deep Space Nine, you can play it whatever flavor you want. A little darker, like Deep Space Nine, or more TOS, more the original Star Trek, or more the Next Generation, whatever your flavor. The game won't halt you in playing whatever style you want to play, right?
Okay, and anything with the Star Trek module, for example, would you be able to use the Book of Quests? Sorry, the Book of Characters stuff with that?
Oh yes, that is the idea. Yes, that is kind of the idea. The Book of Characters is a bit tricky because I'm having to cook all this stuff at once, where like when you cook a genre, it's like, I don't know, it's easier to kind of get in that frame of reference, or that frame of mind, and then like make rules around that, as opposed to like, oh, here's rules for everything. Like here's things for every genre, right? It's a bit tricky, but it's starting to bend into shape. It's starting to come into shape, and I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work.
Yeah,
We shall see.
I think you had mentioned even just the point of getting names for everything. Like you mentioned cipher earlier, for example.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, what do you call, like the different things, so they're kind of universal.
Yeah.
But then, also the danger of universal is you can get so diluted that it doesn't feel like anything, right?
Yeah, I remember, for example, GURPS had gone down that route, and it was very the basic system was very beige. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I'm trying not to fall into that kind of trap, and I think I've avoided it so far. Also, um, some of those games can be really hard to do. Some of those games where you just pick anything can be really hard to wrap your head around. And I think the Book of Characters will definitely take more from the player, but it won't be. It still won't be as hard as like many systems, right? It'll still be pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, when it boils down to it, for example, the way I imagine it playing is, I think I'd use the Dinosaur Riders example when you were explaining it to me last time.
Yeah,
So I think that might be something that the Rebel browser would say, okay, here, make any character, but you have to use the descriptor along with something else. So
right.
it might not be as as free form as just go in there, pick two random things, and we'll see what happens.
Right. So like, like for example, we were going to play test. And we were talking about like doing the Dino Riders scenario where you're all Dino Riders. So you all have to take the rider descriptor, but then whatever else you take is you can take. Or, I was thinking of one where you're all like scrapper, or you're all like junker type people, and you're, can make stuff out of junk. So it's like you all have that descriptor, but then whatever else you want to add, you add, right?
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, it could always also work out for campaigns where you're a thieves guild or you're the crew of a pirate ship or what have you. So yeah,
Exactly, because you could all be thieves and then be different flavors of thieves. You could be the Conan thief that beats the snot out of people, or you could be the you could be the Subutai who's more sneaky and a good archer. Yeah, you'd still have you still all be thieves, but yeah, you'd have your own flavor, which not there's not really something that's in so much in EZD6 right now. You could take inclinations, and that makes quite different characters. So there is that. But this will be even more like with the descriptors, it'll be more like under your control, right? Where you want to go with your character. And like I say, if you want to make an anything character, you could like take one descriptor and then like all inclinations, like just pick a bunch of inclinations.
yeah, that really opens up a lot of flexibility because the inclinations are really what make the, the distinctions between the characters.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, the inclinations are big, are a big thing. So we got the descriptor paths. We'll have more inclinations.
The power
We'll
dice, yeah.
have the power dice. Yeah, the power dice I think are really going to be. I think players are going to love those. Um, and this is definitely going to add power to the characters. But there'll be a couple things. Um, there'll be one thing that may help counter, which would be the armor for the enemies, like actually rolling armor saves for the enemies. I've had people talk about like where the games like, there's games like Cypher where you don't roll the attack, the monsters don't roll the attack, they just assume to hit.
Like
And
when
then
it's like only players roll and yeah.
yeah. Um that does help to speed the game up, but EZD6 is already so fast that I don't think like throwing the dice to hit is bad because it gives some variability to the game. I like that variability where I'm in a really bad situation and the monster this whiffs or whatever. It's like or the reverse where the monster rolls great. So
Hey, when
I like I think I like the idea more of like you actually rolling, and in truth it doesn't take that much longer. It doesn't since the game is so quick anyway. It doesn't take that much longer. And if you want to have like hordes of enemies, you can like have um like a swarm. You can say, oh,
yeah.
this goblin thing is a swarm and it takes a certain amount of hits. And um you know and I've played games where there've been like crowds, and generally how I do crowds is like if they're trying, I do them like contests, like the contest between the character uh and the crowd of things that are maybe pulling you down or even just in the way. Like um I ran a game where like the crowd was like in a theater, and they were blocking people and they're all running around, and the players had to try to get through, and they had to roll contests. Like I had a 3d6 for the crowd. They had to get through the crowd. They could use like strength boons or acrobatic boons and all that kind of thing. But that makes it so like you're not necessarily a fighting situation, but you can't get out. You can't get where you're trying to get because the crowd's in the way and that kind of thing. So just so easy to do.
Yeah, and I was going to say about player-facing roles. It's if I'm running a game, I want to roll dice too, so there's that as well.
Yeah, I like dice, and it's kind of like the same as it feels the same as most games, right? Because that's how most games run. The game master takes their turn, the players take their turn, they roll their dice, I roll my dice. I don't know, it just feels normal, like the way the game flows feels like a D&D game. It's just all those extra rules are removed away.
Yeah.
So it just flows faster. It flows much faster, right? You don't have to look at someone's armor class or someone's stats or whatever. You just have a number to hit and you roll it and bam, they make their armor saves, bam, you on to the next, it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's no all that looking up really takes a lot of time, right?
Sure does.
Looking to see what the monster has to hit, rolling damage, because you don't roll damage dice either. Rolling damage dice, all that stuff takes time, and with all that stripped out, it's amazing how fast it moves.
Yeah, that's again, that's one of the things that you had told me it was faster, but you don't really get the idea of how much faster until you actually sit down and play it.
Exactly. And I think some people look at the rules and it's like I've had a few criticisms of the game, and like I can tell that they've never played the game, right? The way they wrote the review. Because reading the rules, you can dismiss. It's pretty easy to dismiss. It's like, this doesn't sound. This is too little, too light for me, or whatever. But the proof is in the pudding. When you run the game, that's when you see how well it works. Like play one game. Try it. Like try one game. With enthusiasm. Because I think, I'm like, if I can run one game for you, you'll fall in love with this game. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you are a very good game master, so there's also
Oh, well,
that.
thank you.
But yeah, I think most competent game masters would be able to run a really good game with this.
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah. And I'm, amazing games, and not just good, amazing games.
And yeah, that's another thing. From Discord, for example, people are always bouncing. Would it work if I do this? Would it work if I do change the rule in this way? It's like the answer is almost always like maybe, but test it out first because a
Right.
a lot of things look good
Because
on paper, but they don't really make sense once you get.
right. And every rule in there was because it worked really well at my table, right? There's no extraneous rules in the thing. The only thing that I think it could be a bit extraneous is the initiative.
Mhm.
I personally want the players to feel special. So letting them go first makes them feel special. It also means that I can buff up the enemies, right? I can have more enemies. I can have, because they're getting first strike, right? Um, and if they destroy something, if something, they come across something and they destroy it, let them. Every encounter they have, is using up resources probably, right? Using up, because people love to hit, so they're using up their karma, they're using up their hero die, so it's like let them, if they beat the snot out of the first couple encounters, so what? They're gonna run out of resources eventually.
Yeah,
Their
I mean,
attrition is gonna catch up with them.
there is a cost to doing
So
that. Yeah.
yeah. So I love that. I don't mind them going first. I know some people like, well, it's not fair that the enemy um and if you have a boss or whatever, just make it so that the boss is much harder to get to. Have minions, have whatever. If you attack the boss, then the minions are going to come swarm you. What are you going to do? That's as interesting as the combat itself. The decision, like, okay, here's everything in front of you. You have to jump on everything, but what situation are you going to deal with first? You know what I'm saying? If you set up different situations going on at the same time, then they have interesting choices to make, and
Yeah.
hopefully one that sets up their group. they're allies.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, you could always ambush them if you really want to go
Oh yeah,
first.
I ambush players all the time, right? I ambush
Yeah, I
players all the
noticed.
time.
I noticed.
So that's the way to get around it, right? If you really want to have something, just have it ambush the players. So
Okay, so apart from Star Trek, you're working on another playset in the post-apocalyptic vein.
yes, Wasted World.
Is that
Yeah.
something we can talk about, or is it still
No,
other
it's something
other?
we can talk about.
All right.
Um, yeah, I don't. I don't know. Yeah, with the book of characters, we'll have to see how this fleshes out. We may not need the wasted world, but I like the wasted world because I do have some campaign flavor in there, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like I've got this thing called the miasma, which is like this psychic maelstrom that surrounds the world, and it adds a lot of flavor, I think, to the game because you have the psychers, the weirdlings, I call them, and you can have all these different weird phenomenon, from the miasma. So I think that's fun, and I definitely with the monsters, there's definitely like I've had a lot of fun with the monsters in this game because there's a lot of suggestion of the world how it is, right? And there's so many homages in this in like Wasted
yeah.
World.
No
Like I've
kidding.
got yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, most of
Like
the
I've got
book
like
is like spot the reference. Yeah.
yeah. Like I've got Morlocks, I've got the pale ones, which are essentially like the children from Village of the Damned. I've got basically like an alien facsimile, where Karl played this game where this alien DNA from Mars, scientists are trying to make the human 2.0, and of course it goes wrong, and they're aliens essentially.
Okay,
But
Scatter
it's
Terrain and Dungeon Matron are saying we need the Wasted World, and I love Wasted World.
I do too. I have loved the play tests. Um, and I actually have vehicle rules in Wasted World that work quite well actually, but they're a little verbose.
Are they?
They're a little they're a little longer than I think I want. Um, and they don't necessarily cover everything at this point. They cover like most vehicles that would be in a Wasted World. Very Mad Maxy. Um, they work great for that stuff, but I kind of want it more of a universal where everything from like a mech, you're riding to a jet to, um, so those rules don't necessarily cover that stuff as easily. Um, so yeah, I'm still mucking around but for Wasted World, the vehicle rules work very well. Like they work well. They feel dangerous. They're fun. Um, but they're a little long, but um, nowhere near some vehicle some vehicle rules I've seen.
Yeah, but I also like the way that the inclinations are flavored in that place it because all the androids get their own, and weirdlings get their own, and mutants get their own, which is really fun.
It is, yeah, yeah. So there are inclinations for those groups of players. It's just the human characters that just go to the standard inclination list. All the others like mutants, cyborg or not cyborgs, but androids, clones, weirdlings. They all have their own list, but they can still choose from the main, or they have to choose at least one from the main list. But they have their own lists of stuff, which are really fun. And you're right, it gives it a lot of flavor from those things, like what the world's like. And how I set up the world with like there's holds, which are like the bastions of civilization and um, that kind of thing. So yeah, the game definitely works, and and all my playtests have been really successful. So we'll have to see if the book of characters kind of covers this, or it'd be better just to have like its own the wasted world. I think it actually would be better because of what you said, how it feels like its own place. I think it would be better to have the wasted world um as its own thing. And
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. I definitely plan on I really want to do that. Um but the other things I talked about, the Star Trek thing and the survival horror thing, are much smaller. Like they'd be more like a pamphlet, or more like a, you know, 10 pages or something, as opposed to
Hmm.
like a book. Like the Wasted World would be a legit book.
Yeah, I mean the just the stuff you worked on the monsters and the stuff. I think that's basically a love letter to movies and the post-apocalyptic genre.
Oh, I do too.
It really has to be something on its own.
And it seems like there are more and more games coming out that are the post-apocalyptic genre,
Yeah.
or like a mix of the post-apocalyptic genre and something else, right? So I think, yeah, and I love it myself. I love the post-apocalyptic genre myself. So yeah, you could do anything from like, because we have zombies in it, which are called Romeros, which homage to the man. Um, but yeah, just fun stuff. And actually, in our campaign, Carl, you're in a spot right now where you're in a mall with a bunch of Romeros, right? Which is very fun.
Yeah, I'm enjoying
An
that.
old mall. Yeah.
I'm enjoying that campaign so much. I mean,
It is. It's fun. It's fun.
even some of the stuff, like for example, I originally took the mimic upgrade as a joke because I'm playing an android, and that sounded like really kind of the Terminator thing. Is like you can mimic anyone's voice. I
Yeah.
I did not expect that would be so useful.
Yeah, it's been hugely useful. I mean, and really fun and really fun. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's
Fun,
see.
fun, fun, great stuff.
So Dungeon Matron is saying Wasted World could be a module like North Road, and
Hmm.
she wants something steampunk.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. For Wasted World, what I was kind of thinking of doing is just maybe have like a rules primer, um, and then the Wasted World rules, and then like a and then that'd be half the book, and then half the book would be kind of like scenarios. Like here's a hold to start out in, and here's like adventures around the hold.
Yeah, it's more
Is
like
kind of my
a
is kind of my thinking.
so it's more like a setting book than a rule book itself. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So it has all the rules, but it also has some like adventures in it, whereas the initial book didn't, because I had to make room for the rules.
Yeah.
So yeah, the rules would be truncated, in this book, and then if you want more detail, look at the core book. But yeah, so then it would have room for those adventures, which I think would be a nice to get people started,
Yeah, for sure.
in the setting.
But that does remind me. I think you had mentioned at some point you would be working on a world book or something like that for fantasy, if I remember correctly. Is that still happening? Is that a thing or not? How's that going?
That was kind of more the quest book. It was kind of
Okay,
going
all
to be
right.
more like a world book with quests, right? Um, because um, although the like setting books are fun to read, to me it's like they haven't done I want someone to do the work for me with like adventures, right? I like, if you do a setting book and you have adventures in it, that's cool, but like just to have a world book it's just like adventure starters but no like real adventures in it. um I don't
Uh,
find that very useful. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of why what I want to do with the quest book. I want to make it like really actionable, like bam, you can sit down and run this right away,
yeah,
right?
yeah, so you're basically, in fact, it's like you mentioned in the introduction, you build the world by dropping adventures in different places.
And that's how I do it. That's how I
Okay,
do it.
yeah,
That's how I
that
build
makes
my
sense. Yeah.
world. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Whatever we and the players come up with becomes part of the world.
yeah, and you don't really need to know
Yeah.
the price of fish in that city versus that town. So
No,
it's like,
no. And you can say, I mean, for players, you can say, "Oh, the West." There these legends of the West or whatever, of the king. At the edge of the kingdom. But you don't have to be specific, like, "Oh, this is the hinterland," or whatever. You could just keep it very vague until players decide to go that way, or whatever. So that's the way you can do it. Or like if you're playing in a galaxy, it's like a lot of unknowns in the galaxy, right? You
oh yeah,
don't
for sure.
know what everything's. The star might have names, but not everything is going to have a name. So you just make it up as you go, right? You just add it as you go. So that's my preferred way. I prefer to do that as opposed to like, oh, here's the rock solid world, and where do you want to go now?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, even because it
Yeah,
leaves you
yeah,
more space for expansion. Like, if you, for example, if let's say I forget I did, okay, no, I really need this thing or this place for this adventure. Yep, there's a
right.
space there. Plunk.
Yeah, and like in our game, in our Wasted World game, it's been like leads. Like you guys will get leads, and then kind of decide what you want to do, right?
Yeah,
check out. So I much prefer that than like, oh, here's the broken rock, or here's the you want to go there, or here's the 20 other things. So that also makes it so like players aren't like overwhelmed, right?
Also
It's
true,
like,
yeah.
okay, here's the map. Where do you want to go? Bam. And then you get a bunch of But if you're like, oh, there's a story lead that leads to this. This sounds cool. I'd much rather do that than like try to pick out something, pin on a map. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like, and I think that's something that you also see in a lot of open world games. Like you could literally go anywhere, but you're always going to get out of the gate. You're always going to get one specific destination.
Right, right, right.
So yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
So yeah, I don't think I'll be doing. I don't have any plans in the near future to do any kind of world book. Um, I do call my world Graxel, but yeah, and that's in the quest book. But yeah, I don't think like the price of grain in this kingdom, or
It's not
whatever.
really that relevant, is it?
I'll let the players decide that.
When Mike Butler is asking world building by party interaction. Uh, I guess it is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like the thing you had done on pest control, I believe, when you were. Sorry about that. I think that was very loud. Jeez. Traffic outside. Uh, I really like the thing you had done on Shadows of Arconia when you were running pest control, which is like, okay, you're going to this town, just give me one fact about this town each.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's fun. Like have the players, fill in stuff. And then we went with that stuff, because they were like, oh, they make the best, maple syrup in the kingdom. They have a grove of maple trees in the center of town. So yeah, that was fun. And when you're playing Theater of the Mind, you have an unlimited budget, right? You're making a movie and you have an unlimited budget of what you can do. So play on that. Use that imagination and play on that. And then, what players give you. I'm always on the lookout for like players dropping stuff in my direction, like ideas or whatever, or their fears, or whatever, or their expectations, or whatever. I think a good game master kind of should do that, because um, to me it's fun to make the the characters. I love to have the characters feel badass, and I love to bring them to moments of like terror, because I love my horror, right? Like I got mentioned this that like the like I always have horror in my and stuff I do. Like there's always a horror element, which is pretty true, right? Even in my Tamus stuff, there's always some kind of horror element. Why I'm a big horror fan, because I think that's great drama, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Having those moments of uh elation where you're like killing it, the players are killing it, and then having those moments of terror where, oh crap, this could be the end. Like this could be the end of my person, and then when you pull it out or whatever, or come up with an idea or get out of it by the skin of your teeth, that just feels so much sweeter. I love the catharsis of the game, and I try to encourage that in both the highs and lows. The highs of elation and the lows of terror. Um,
But yeah,
because it's that range that makes the drama.
yeah, and it's really not satisfying if everything is always everything is always okay. It's yeah, that's not what good stories are made of.
Right, 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 right. And I'm one that, and this from playing with me, that if players come up with good ideas, I often just let the player do it. Like I don't roll for it. Um, I only roll if it's like gonna be an interesting outcome, right? If it's not particularly interesting, um, then don't roll for it. And I also, if the players do their due diligence, which they
Yeah.
like set up something or check something or, whatever, then just give it to them, right? Don't make them roll and then, oh, they don't, sorry, you don't get anything. Even though you said your character was looking through these documents, there's a document there in my notes, but you don't find anything because you rolled a crappy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, just give it to you. You look through the notes, just give it to them. So yeah, I try not to roll for anything that doesn't need to be rolled. And if it's just cool for the character and it's not breaking the game or anything, just let them do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only exception to it is unless failure could be as interesting as a success.
Yes, exactly. If failure is interesting, then do it. If it's not interesting, why bother? Why are you taking time in the game to roll to waste people's time? Because that's all dice rolls are they interrupt the narrative. They're interruptions. And what I think is like, in other game systems where you have to keep looking up rules, that's like commercials. It's like playing a game with commercials. Because you just tune out, right? Everybody else just tunes out while you're looking up your rule, right? And it's like a commercial. It's literally a commercial in your game. So yeah, that's one thing that's great about EZD6. You don't have commercials. Except buy EZD6.
And the
Buy
Book of
more
Quests. Yeah.
EZD6.
Okay, so apart from the stuff that you've been working on, is there anything that you would like to see added, or uh, a playset that you would love someone to hack, or some rules that you would wish you had time to add, or something like that?
Right. Yeah, I think the open game thing is going to be great because there are certain things I'm definitely more interested in than in others. And like, I like Star Wars, but I like Star Trek better, right? I'm more for the Star Trek. So I would never really be interested in necessarily doing a Star Wars set because I'm not as into it. Um, but somebody in the community did.
Yeah.
And I know like there are tons of people that love Star Wars and want to play Star Wars. And I'm glad that he did that because that's cool because I probably never would. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, don't wait for me. If there's a genre or something you want to work on, and almost all genres can be hacked from this game. It's just hacked from this game, and that's what I would do with convention games. I'd be like, okay, how can I hack this? Like, when I ran a Vampire Hunter game, what I decided to do was the players decide whether they're melee specialists or range specialists, and then all their character is built from inclinations. And I had more inclinations in the book, but I had like vampire centric inclinations, like you can be a half vampire
Okay.
or like, yeah, which was interesting.
So it's
And
all coming from the inclinations rather than the hero, but okay.
yeah, exactly. So it was all built from, and then I had like a specialty gear that each person could take a mission. There were like 6 like specialty gear items, and you could pick whichever one you wanted for the mission. You could change it up from mission to mission.
Okay.
So like you get like a grappling gun, or like you could get like a UV flash. So vampires attack you, could flash it at them, and hopefully get them off before they drink your blood. So different padded boots where you could stealth easier. So like all kinds of stuff that was really useful to missions. And it was interesting. There was one thing I did for the game that turned out. That's why playtesting sometimes is important, because
Hmm.
I thought, well, they're fighting vampires, and basically you had to crit a vampire to kill them
Hmm.
in the heart, right? So the melee players had stakes, and the range players had these big crossbow bolts, right? And they had a certain number of them, and they never ran out in the missions. Like no one ever, like, I had them track them, and no one ever ran out. I think because they were in the games, I had like 6 players, so that's like a lot of stakes. But the idea was that if you didn't get the crit to kill the vampire would just pull the stake out and destroy it, right? And
Okay.
then you'd have to get another one, right? And so I thought there'd be a lot more attrition with like the ammo. So I actually tracked the ammo, and it turned out to not be needed because they had plenty of ammo for the missions. And because what it turned out, I allowed other players to, if the stake was driven in but it didn't get a crit, another player could try to knock it in
Okay.
if they were nearby, right? So they tag teamed a lot of vampires, which was really cool, in the game, but it meant I didn't need nearly as much ammo or, as I thought, right?
Which is awesome because it means that you can drop that rule and use the time for
Right.
something else. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, don't worry about tracking that, right? Because in the survival horror, like I track bullets.
Yeah.
But in Wasted World, we don't. Like what we do is you have a certain amount of supply you can have, and it's like more abstracted, right? It's like enough ammo for a day of shooting, right? So, but like survival horror, when there's like you're only getting 3 or 4 bullets or whatever, right? Then it's fun to track. It's fun to track the ammo.
Yeah, because then you really have to think hard about should I use this now
Right?
or
Am
do I
I going to
save it for
shoot
later?
this? Right,
Yeah.
right. Because I had a game with worms that would explode with this caustic ooze, and like if you were near it, if you hit it and it exploded on you, you'd be covered in this, and you'd have to get it off you, right? Um, but I mean, shooting them is like the great solution because you're not near it,
Yeah, exactly.
right? You're not standing next to it.
Okay, so what do you say we take a look in Discord and see what people have thrown in there?
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah.
We have a few builds going in there, so let me just switch my camera so we can see what's going on. Okay, you should be able to see the Discord on Zoom now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so coming up first, we have Earthman Brick, who found this cheap junk bots playset. I think this is what the clean one looks like.
Uh-huh.
And he ganged it up into this, which looks pretty amazing, I have to say.
Oh, it does. Yeah. What a transformation. What a great transformation.
It looks pretty large as well. It's
Yeah, it does actually.
nice.
Yeah, that's a great setup. And I like that kind of thing with like a one wall deal,
Hmm.
because then you can um like if I do something like that, what I do is I would have um the wall back to me and like facing the
Yeah,
players, so that the players all around can reach into and see the wall, but I don't need to see it, right, necessarily, right?
yeah, exactly. You know what it's
Right,
like.
because right, exactly. It's all for the players. It's all for the players' benefit. So that's generally what I do when I have like a big piece of terrain like that. I'll put the back towards me on my end of the table, and then it's facing out to the players so they can see it and interact with it. But yeah, those are great. Those are fantastic.
Yeah,
I love them, Steve.
and it looks really something like you could, since it folds up and packs itself, it's its own box. Could be something
Yeah,
that you could take
exactly.
away conventions or if you're playing somewhere outside of your house. Nice.
Exactly. Because I'm always trying to think of ways, yeah, I do conventions that, how I can transport
Of course, yeah.
stuff.
the uh, the Tupperware spaceships were a great idea.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, they work well. They work great. They work great.
Okay, so this one is from Scattertrain. It's her wizard statue.
Oh, that's fun.
Originally an Undertaker plastic toy.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Undertaker, right? Yeah. Oh, and I also wanted to say that with the advantage cards, Meredith here designed the back of the cards. So I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
her. I
yeah, she
love
did.
her design. Yeah, I love her design. Oh, I love that. I love the writing around the circle there, and
Yeah.
that's so cool. That's so great.
I forgot if it actually says something or not. So, Meredith, does that actually say something in there? Oh, and this one is the Beholder dummy. This is one of my favorites.
Oh, it's the beholder target. That's great. That's so great.
I would really like a life-sized one in my living room or something.
Yeah. I love it. And then, yeah, with the TP, I think that's TP on there. You can do and the white glue, you can do so much.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. That's so fun. The stands back there, I did a craft once where I found this um it was a shelf
A
at
shelf?
like a thrift store, and I turned it over and made it into like a stands uh because I had this thing where these lords were doing a judging or whatever,
Okay.
and I made it like I painted it up like I turned it upside down and made it like into a stands, and it was really cool because I used my stamp method on it, so I had some like stonework on it,
Ah, okay.
and it was all stamped. It was all stamped or and I had some wood and banners coming off of it.
Oh, nice.
I had banners that I could change different banners. So pretty neat, pretty cool. But just anywhere, yeah, you can find just junk that you can. But yeah,
Yep.
that's fantastic.
Okay. These are some body bags from Sean from Recon.
Oh, nice.
These were really good idea because he was using failed prints to you don't, instead of throwing them away, he was just wrapping them in the plastic to make these body bags.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
I think here further down we have one which is open, but in the meantime, this one is from Lil C. XPS, Ultimate Dungeon Terrain and Pillars.
Nice, nice, nice looking pillars.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. It's like the floor is trying to eat the dog or something.
Uh-huh. Looks like somebody's pet about to get swallowed,
Yeah,
engulfed.
this is good stuff.
It is.
Okay, oh, here we go. More of Sean's body bags.
Nice.
It's like he's got a little crime scene going on here.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Okay, so this one is from Quest Board Terrain.
Cool.
Oh, okay. I think this is the whole series of builds she had made for different build challenges.
Nice. It's fun to use lights in your terrain, and it's so easy now
Oh
to
yeah,
do that with all these different shaped LEDs. Um, yeah, small. You don't even have to do any complex wiring or anything. There are some videos on that which are pretty cool, but I usually just hide it in the terrain somewhere. Just make a little hole in the terrain and put it in there.
sticking a tea light, maybe use some.
Yeah, stick in a tea light. They have those little wedding lights those floating wedding lights that are small.
Yeah,
Those are great. They have they even now have these flat things that are like coasters that you can put a glass on that lights the glass up.
yeah. I think I saw some. I think Michael from that one videos had some. They look really good.
So those are really cool. So there's all kind, there's fiber optic stuff. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. I really like playing with it, play with the LEDs.
Okay, I think this for her next video it should be interesting.
Cool.
Look again, it looks like terrain in a box or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Those cages look really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what is Lee's up to. Oh, looks like
Oh, huh.
it looks like a stamp made out of Lego. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Huh. Good idea, Lisa.
Yeah, very.
Okay, this one's from Lance Huntsman. We saw this one last week in the uh, water terrain challenge.
Nice.
I really like the miniature trapped in the resin.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, resin effects and stuff now. Oh, nice.
There you go, your concealed LEDs.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's see another of Lisa's stamps. This works surprisingly well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, Lisa's definitely our science and experiment division.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. 6 cages. So, I know we've talked before about the reviving the floating terrain challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, tentatively, we've thrown that out for not next month, but for July. So, we'll be talking more about details about that, where it's going to be streamed and whatever. But if you
Mm-hmm.
would like to tell people what that was about, so that they can either dust off their old builds or build new ones.
Right. Right. So we'll like decide on some kind of topic, or we'll decide on like a craft material that you could use, and then you just follow that. So if it's like we did one like man's best friend, where it's like you do something where uh like a vignette of like it could be a dog, it could be a dragon, it could be whatever whatever you come up with it for the terrain. So a lot of openings to build something, um and so that's basically what it is. We just give you an idea, and you run with it.
Okay, we're thinking of going with floating terrain because that was kind of the last one that never actually got wrapped up.
Oh, that's right, that's right. What's the floating terrain?
If I remember correctly, it was any any terrain which involves something floating, not in water. I think it was floating in the air or something like
Oh,
that.
that's right, that's right. Yeah, so it was something, yeah, something floating. So yeah, like we give you like a theme or an idea, and then you come up with yeah, come with what that means to you or your craft.
Okay, and so that's going to be in no, July, yeah, so sometime in July. So
Hmm.
yeah, you'll have to figure out where you want to stream that, and then we'll do the all the wiring and things.
Awesome, awesome. That'll be great. That'll be great. It's been a long time since we've done it, so
Yeah, and I really love that because everyone would be jumping in on that, and those challenges were lots of fun.
they are fun. They are fun.
Okay, we've been just keeping it going between my channel and Michael's, just but again it's a much smaller rather than we've got all the Tabletop Crafters Guild just zerging in and
Right, right. It is. Yeah, yeah. And I appreciate you guys keeping it going. But with the books and stuff, I've just been so
oh
busy.
yeah,
Yeah,
no
you
surprise
know,
there. I mean that you did have
yeah,
a lot on your plate.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, speaking of which, I think we should be calling it an evening soon because I've already held you for too long. So,
No problem. Good to be here.
and I'd love to have you over again when the Book of Characters or the Wasted World book comes along. So we'll definitely look forward to having you here again.
Oh, definitely. Yes, yes. Most certainly.
Okay, so thank you again for joining us, and thanks everyone watching. Hope you have a great week, and we'll be back on Sunday 4th with the Dungeon Delver. So you guys have a great week in the meantime, and see you around.
Have fun crafting and gaming.
Bye!
Bye, everybody.